Welcome back, everybody, to the Amucho podcast with Alex Anderson and Dydine Umunyana.
In today's episode, we'll be speaking to Consolee Nishimwe. She is amazing. She's my friend. She's my sister from Rwanda. She has a lot of wisdom. She survived the genocide against the Tutsis back in 1994 in Rwanda. And she has seen a lot. So, but her light, oh my God, let me just not spoil everything. So stay with us and we'll be with you. Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Also, guys, this discussion was recorded over the phone, given the situation with the pandemic. We can't actually go anywhere. Consolee's in New York, we're in LA. So just keep that in mind as you listen. All right, guys, enjoy the episode.
All right, Consolee, my friend, my big sister from Rwanda. Welcome to our studio, Umucho podcast. We're very, 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 very happy to have you. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Really, it's a pleasure.
Oh.
Yeah, you guys are incredible. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
No, you are incredible. And for you to, accept to be on our podcast is a privilege.
Yay.
And share your story and who you are, your beautiful soul to our audience. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really, it's a joy to be here, to talk to you. And I'm so excited. I'm so happy for you. And thank you for having me, really.
Oh, thank you. Oh my God, it's going to be a thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Let's minimize that.
So let's just figure out who Consolee is and what your story is.
Oh my God, okay.
Oh, thank you. Where should I begin? My name is Consolee, of course, Nishimwe. I'm from Rwanda, like Dydine. Yeah, so I currently live in New York City, but I grew up in Rwanda until I was probably in my maybe 24 years old. So I came here when I was 24 years old, and I survived the genocide at the age of 14 years old. So that's one of my really story. But I have a story also being a happy girl in my village. So pretty much I have a life before the genocide and after, during the genocide and after. So
Right.
I try to to share that with people. So I'm happy to be here.
So, Consolee, for
Yes.
the people that don't know you and they don't know your story, they don't know where you come from, even where what Rwanda is, how was life? I know most people, when they think of Rwanda, they go directly to 1994, Rwandan Genocide.
Yeah.
But you were 14 years old during 1994, which means you had a life before then,
Of course.
like you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah. How was your life? How was your life? Just briefly, like a small, like something exciting that you remember, or maybe sad or whatever that you remember before 1994.
Yeah, because of course I was a teenager when the genocide happened. So that means I knew I lived a life before. So like you said, I was very fortunate to have a family, to have both parents, and I have good memories. And one of the things I remember, because I was, among the 5 kids, I was the oldest in my family. So and because my parents were teachers, I remember these good memories of going to school with my father, who was a teacher, and of course, and my mom. But most of the time, I used to be around my dad a lot. So, and it was really a good thing for me walking. In those times, there were no buses. We used to walk to school. So, and I walk with him and just go to school and be with him around, and then, with other kids. And I remember also, going to just having a normal life and going to my cousins, my grandparents. So homes. They were not living far from each other. So it used to be a very normal thing for me to see my grandmother and my cousins, my uncles. So, and even though in those times we lived, there were, persecutions against Tutsis, but at the same time, our parents managed to really give us a normal life. So, and they managed to make sure that we were safe and loved and cared and cherished. So I was one of the fortunate ones. I really don't take that for granted, because I know, some people don't have that luxury of having parents. That's why I really cherish those moments I've had with my parents. So, and really loving me and caring me, and just normal things every day, and just really, even we didn't have much, of course, but we lived in the villages, but we had really enough to really, live a great life together. So at least those moments, I have really great memories of, living with them and just having, normal life. So it was really good. So sometimes people think that we never had a normal life before, but we really had good, normal life somehow before the genocide. So, and I am so thankful, because I have, people like friends like you, Dydine, who probably don't remember anything before the genocide. So I'm grateful at least I have had those, I was born before I could see a little bit of that life before. So yeah, I'm so grateful. It was really good for me in those times, even though there were, hardships, happening to us, especially Tutsis, but at least, my parents really gave me the love I needed. So those times. So, and it's, really it helps me now. So even in my life now. So, and I'm grateful.
I mean, me having grown up in America, I didn't really
Right.
know what it's like to be growing up in a majority where people who look like me are everywhere, are the
Right.
majority of people.
Mm-hmm.
What was that
Mm-hmm.
like for you? I mean, having been there, you said 24 years?
Like, how
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about that kind of, that experience you've had with both cultures?
Yeah, comparing and contrasting those different cultures.
Yeah. Growing up, of course, in Rwanda, you said it well, Didin. So we are all black. So in Rwanda, so all of us look alike. But at the same time, of course, because of these ethnic divisions, being a minority, part of the minority Tutsis, I felt always really, like a minority all the time, like you and all of us were Tutsis in the country
Yeah.
at that time. So, and and then because I never really thought so much about my skin color, until of course, I saw the difference when I came here. But you don't get it right away, so it takes a while for you to understand it. So yeah, because it's not what you live through at
Yeah.
that time. So realizing your skin color, it really took me many years actually. It took me a while.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
know.
Even
Yeah.
when somebody will, I wouldn't really get it so fast. But of course, that's not really how I've lived through it. So, but then when I understood it now, of course, I feel it now. So now I know, I feel it.
You can
So
see
I,
signs.
I really, when something happens, I can really tell that it's because how I look. So, and it really hurts, because it's kind of, I kind of, it kind of reminds me, when I was, persecuted because of my being a Tutsi. So, but I've never, I try not to, dwell much on someone who's trying maybe to pull me down because of how I look. So, because I know how it can really damage me. So I just try not to really, give it attention. So because I know it's not good. It won't be good for me. So if I really allow it to,
Yeah.
but I know, I feel it, I sense it, and I understand it very well. So it's not easy. It's not easy to, be treated in that way. So
Yeah. Right.
But it took a while for me to really see that because, of course, as somebody who lived in Rwanda, being minority at that time, which is different from this. So I understood it.
It's a different
when
color of hatred. You know,
yeah.
yeah.
But of course, I educated myself more about the culture and more about what it is being Black in this country. So of course, I had to really read and I had to watch movies. I had to really, do so many things to educate myself about it.
Yeah. So, Consolee, for someone who's not aware of the conflict of the genocide against the Tutsis in Rwanda, how can you briefly tell us a little bit about it?
As you know me very well, I'm not good with history. So I'm with you, who
Yes.
is better in history. So we can all
We're gonna have
really
that
share.
discussion. Yeah.
We can all share.
Okay.
I can help you with this. So we can all share about the background
Yeah.
of the
I
history.
mean,
So,
it's pretty much
yeah.
like, when we say the Tutsis and the Hut, like what happened, most people don't really know what happened, like where the conflicts came from, where like the tribes, all of these things, they just, people just hear Rwanda and then they hear genocide.
Yeah.
But we lived it, so we are able to kind of explain it in a way that people understand that genocide 1994 did not just happen overnight.
Yeah.
Like you lived well, but as you explained your story before the genocide, even though you had a beautiful a family, your dad, you were always with your dad, who was a teacher, was giving to the community, but still there were your parents lived in fear. They
Right.
tried so hard
Every
to
day.
protect you from that fear, but there were things going on, like just a little bit background of the Tutsis and Hutus and Twa and all of that, from like where the conflicts came from.
Yeah, no, for those who probably many people wonder where the Tutsis and Hutus came from in Twa. So they might wonder what it is because it wasn't before like ethnics until it was social classes before. And these social classes really became ethnics because of colonization. When the Belgians, it was Germans first and then the Belgians and it came after. So measuring our noses and our heights and, deciding where, who become a Tutsi and Hutus. So, and people didn't necessarily, just decide who they want to be. It was forced on them. So that's how we became Tutsis and Hutus. And then maybe Dydine, you can add up on maybe what
Yeah.
how this division, creating this, what they call divide and conquer.
Divide and
What
conquer.
it
Yeah.
was, what it, how it really changed people's life, our lives, and, especially our ancestors and how it became, we're told who we are after that and having these ID cards,
I know.
showing Tutsis and Hutus. Because when they left the country in division. So that's how they started.
Yeah, the whole conflict started from there. And I always say that we cannot give what we don't have, you know? So I'm sure the Germans who came in early 1930s, that all they had was the divisionism, hatred they had towards Jewish people back in Europe. So that's all they gave to Africa. And and then, our ancestors learned from that, and then we got us to the genocide where our lives were torn apart. And
then after that in 1959, that's when we had so many Tutsis who were mostly like left the country because of persecution. So when the majority Hutus were, that's when actually the genocide, even one of the genocides started. So when it wasn't even on a big scale like 1994, So, but we had so many refugees, Tutsi refugees in many countries, neighboring countries like Uganda, Tanzania, DRC, and many other countries, you know, and because of that, so we have all of us, me and you, Dydine, we have some families who were who were in exile, who were born outside of some of them. So so because of that, and those of us, our families who remain in the country, they were persecuted all their lives. And so, and until they planned genocide, so to
and then
eliminate, exterminate all the Tutsis who remain in the country. So so it was a well-planned genocide, and really for someone who would say that, you know, it just happened. No, it didn't just happen. It was a well-planned genocide because our parents never taught us what happened in those early times, because that I remember when I was growing up, I never heard my parents really have this conversation about, you know, what happened to them in 1950s, because they were worried. They didn't want us to be worried, so they didn't tell us all these stories. So I when I talked to some of my cousins who are still who are older than me, they used to tell me that when they will have this conversation with their parents, it was just in a hiding place. They never really spoke about it in an open place because it wasn't safe for them to talk about it. So, and I hear, you know, we heard after the, you know, all these stories of how, like, my mother would tell me a story of how she was, you know, she went in hiding with her parents and everybody in the house. So they went in hiding in 1973 because they ruined all their homes and everything they had. So, but in those times, they never killed people as much as they did in 1994. So I remember she always tells me a story of my grandfather. I didn't meet him, so he died after 1973. So, and she told me a story about him when he refused to go into hiding in 1973. So he decided to stay home. Everybody left, and he decided, no, I'm not going anywhere. So I'll just stay here. If anything happens, I'll just stay here. He because he had asthma, he was worried to go anywhere in the bushes and hiding. So, and then one man who came to destroy the homes was somebody who baptized him not too long ago. Can you imagine? He was a pastor. Yeah, so he baptized my grandfather because when these missionaries came in the country, they used to baptize them. They will help them to, you know, some of them will become pastors. They will, you know, baptize all these of them. That's how my grandfather got baptized in those times. So, and the person who came to destroy, you know, their homes were somebody who baptized him not too long ago.
Wow.
And my grandfather told him, like, oh, okay, you are my pastor. Whatever you want to do, just do it. So, and he decided to, you know, to destroy the home with the guys who came with him, and then they left my grandfather there. So, and when my mom and my aunts and everybody else and my grandmother came back, they didn't know they were going to find him alive. So, and he told them what happened. So, yeah, it was really, because they still had a little, you know, in those times they still thought about, like, they were neighbors, they were friends, and sometimes they didn't want to kill them right away, but it wasn't as really bad as, like,
1994. They had no jokes. They just, even if they were your husband, they were still, you know.
Yeah. These were neighbors. They were not like strangers. They were people
people that you knew.
Yeah, so it was just because of how the ideology of hatred were being taught, you know, to hate Tutsis, simply just to hate them. Yeah, so it was being taught since many years, you know, since 1950s, and then it grew, you know, to a point where a lot of, you know, majority of Hutus allow themselves to believe that Tutsis are enemies of the country. They shouldn't be living in the country. We shouldn't be part of the, we come elsewhere. We are, they gave us really names like cockroaches and snakes, all these dehumanizing language. Yeah, we grew up really feeling like we are not,
We don't belong there.
Yeah.
down there. Being a Tutsi, it's a shame. Like even adults will come to you as a kid. Oh, you little, little Tutsi cockroach. Like you feel ashamed. You feel like you something, like somehow you are not like anyone else. So it was really shameful to see, people allowing themselves really to hate other people simply just to hate them because of who they are. So it was really horrible. It can show you how when you are, how the words are powerful, the power of words, how you can use the word to teach. You can use words to teach good or bad. So, and they allow themselves to teach bad. So look what it did to us. It left us, many of us, orphaned, widowed. It wasn't really good at all. Yeah.
See, now, because that's something that I was always kind of unclear about. Because I know I didn't sneak up on you, but even like as a kid, 13, 14 years old, you were very aware of the tension and kind of the climate. And this hate didn't just come out of left field. Like you kind of saw it coming.
Yeah. Especially when you were a teenager, like any other teenager anywhere, you at school you talk about things or you see things, you're observant. So I was kind of an observant child. So and I remember one time one of my classmates who was a niece of a mayor. So she used to sit behind me in the classroom, so in junior high school. And then she was really bad. She was she had this hateful, she was so hateful towards Tutsis, and she really had it so bad in her to a point where she decided to really bully all of us, those of us who were in the classroom at that time, who were Tutsis. So, and because she thought she was privileged because of coming from, a family of mayor, she felt like she can do anything. And I will never forget. Yeah, I will never forget the fear of seeing this girl coming in the classroom. You feel like she will kill you. So it was really scary. It was one of the scary time when I was in junior high school, really, having this girl around me. So thankfully, I managed to, be far away from her. So, and I told my parents what happened. Of course, my parents would never face the family at that time. What they will say, they'll be like, be careful, just, and they will tell your teacher to move you, make sure you sit somewhere else. But they would never say anything beyond that because they knew if they say more than that, they will be attacked. So I didn't know that much. So I thought maybe, until of course, I understood better. So, but, for me, of course, I was much aware. I would be so careful. And you really, I knew that we were not really liked at all when I was in high school. So
right. See, that's interesting because like with race relations in Texas, I remember my family, my parents kind of letting my brother and I kind of be aware of certain situations and, kind of just like warning us, like, don't, say certain things. Don't, don't be caught doing this in front of these people because it may look like something. But it never was like you're going to get hurt. Not until recently. But like during our childhood, it was sort of a scary notion though. And it didn't really click with me until I was probably like 10. But at that point, I was like, oh, okay, this divisionism is a very real thing. And now, I couldn't imagine how, going through what you did at such a young age, at 13, 14, where you hear these things, but it's not just like a warning as in like, okay, you might get in trouble. It's more of like, you might lose your life. And that's a very, very real thing to deal with, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then in those times, actually, there were these political parties in the country who were most of them who were like really spreading the message of hatred against the Tutsis. So these were some of them were young men, and who were always like coming around in the country. So throughout the country, they had all these, they were always in the buses and going around in the country. So terrifying people. So, and for me, because whenever I see those buses, because we never live far away from the main road. So I used to be worried about them. So imagine, living in fear, and your parents will tell you, be careful, and they will make sure you are not really on the streets and like any other kid. Normally in the village, you will be all over. So nobody will be afraid of like anything happening to you. But because of the times we lived at that time, so they really managed to make sure we're not really, far away from home. So, and these were young men who were trained always to spread all these hateful messages. They were always like having these songs and chanting around and going around the country to recruit people. So it was really scary. And for me, of course, as a teen, you always think, oh, this is for a short period of time in my end. So, and things will get better. But that was not the case. There was this radio also, which was used, and I'm sure Dydine can mention a little bit about that radio, RTNM, which was a hateful radio. I will never forget what these people were talking on the radio. It was one of the most horrifying radio. Listening to that radio and the way they are mocking and talking about Tutsis, and some of them were murdered. Because Tutsis really were murdered in some parts of the country even before 1994. So, and Dydine knows it is one of those areas some of your family comes from. So they were in early 90s. So I think it was 1992.
My father's family.
Yeah. So these families, we always heard those families being murdered. So
I remember that my dad's sister and her children and her husband were killed in 1990. And his two brothers, they were murdered then, 1990. And so for us, I think I think that's what you meant.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, I think that's what you meant, because I know that my dad lost people before even genocide, before he went to join the RPF.
They were, they were murdered everywhere, especially some of the most known Tutsis throughout the country. Some of them were murdered in their homes. They used to imprison them, saying like because there were Tutsis already, the RPF already, of course, joined like your father who joined the RPF and many others who were fighting to make sure, the country is safe. Sometimes we used to go to many Tutsis homes saying like, oh, you have letters from them. They would search in your homes. I remember they came in our home too when I was a kid, and they threw everything in the house, and even beans and rice, whatever you had in your home to search, just searching like letters or anything they would want to see. They would say, oh, you have something from them. And I remember my father, from RPF. I remember my father was forced to read his personal letters. So some of the letters, maybe he some people wrote to him. So, and I'll never forget the fear in his face. Like he couldn't even find the words to explain, to us what was happening, but we were afraid. So all of us were really afraid at home seeing these, gendarmes. They're almost like police people who came in the house and terrifying us. And it was so scary, to see that. Wow. And some of our families were imprisoned at that time. So one of my uncle was in prison at that time. So it was one of the scary time before actually the actual genocide happened. It was really pretty much scary to all of us. So,
Wow.
yeah.
What's the earliest memories leading to genocide? Like, when we say genocide, what comes in your mind?
Yeah, of course, when all those, chaotic things were happening throughout the country, it never occurred to me that there was going to be a genocide. Of course, as a teenager, it's not something you think about. So, because we're used to seeing that happening, you thought maybe it's something that will maybe stop soon. Hopefully, things will get better until I realized when I heard on the radio, one thing that scares, I remember all the time is when I heard this radio, RTM, starting to say when the genocide, started everywhere throughout the country, people were being murdered. So when we heard that we have to go into hiding, so they are going to search everywhere and kill all of us. So, and I remember when I saw so many people in my area, like in one of the communal office where people were gathered, coming from different, places from their homes in the hills, coming to hide. So that's when I realized things were going to be bad. Until one time when we saw that we had to go into hiding. So like we had to really run and leave our home completely. So it was one of the times I realized, maybe things are going to be different. Our lives are going to be different. Like you are confused. Your mind is still confused. What are you seeing?
Right.
Like to see suddenly people, everything changed. Like everything changed, and then you have to run. Like you have everything changed. You had to run. And then you're seeing homes everywhere, burning down in the hills because Rwanda is like hilly. So a lot of people, in their homes, you could see someone's home and see, oh my God, this is someone's home is burning. And then you see that the home is burning. And then we realize our home, already burned when we ran. So, and that's when I realized, this is real and it's going to be bad. And hoping and praying that hopefully we'll survive. But every day things got worse, and then for those 3 months and hiding in many different places, and especially in my area, Dydine knows very well when they counted how many people, how many families lost their life, they are completely wiped out. It's actually in my area. So in my town, in my villages, so that's where you find so many families completely wiped out. So that means it shows you the magnitude of the genocide, how the genocide was really bad and how it was well planned, and how people believed in really, killing people who were their neighbors. And imagine leaving your home you lived, all those years with your family, and then now you find yourself going to hiding and you don't know who to turn to. You don't know how people, even people were friends, especially the Hutus who were not targeted. So who was going to help you? Who was going to hide you? You didn't know. So it was just about like praying to God and say, hopefully I'll find somebody to help me.
It must have been terrifying because
It was scary.
I know I was almost 4 and I didn't even know the difference between people, and I remember myself ending up in a home of the perpetrators, and then but I didn't know who they were. So I feel like the fear I had, it was probably less than yours, because you knew, like you understood the heaviness of what was happening more than I did. Like that's when I start feeling like, oh my God, I'm so glad I was so young that I didn't capture everything.
Yeah. No, I think especially when I remember when I met you immediately, I thought because you were the same age as one of my brother, and And my brother, I remember because I could see you and how my mom would always carry my brother on her back. So even he was scared. I mean, he was always scared, but he was a kid at the same time. You didn't know what to tell him, like what, like sometimes in the bushes when we would be hiding. So he was hungry. We were hungry, and we didn't know what to tell him, how to. So, but I think when something bad happens, even though you are a kid, somehow you find a way to know it within you, even though you can't, explain what was happening. There were times he didn't cry. He just kept quiet.
Oh yeah, I remember my aunt my aunt Agnes, who was with us during the genocide. She after genocide she got married, and then I remember at her wedding she told my mom a story of how during the genocide I looked at her and I kept trying to make eye contact with her, and then she would like hide her eyes from me because she suspected I was looking for something, asking for something that she didn't have. And then at some point she ended up accidentally having eye contact with me, and then the little me, okay, not the me now. And then the tears started flowing on my face, on my cheeks, like a lot of tears. And then she said, she looks at me, she's like, Dydine, what are you doing? Because she didn't know how to respond to those tears, with what was happening. And and because of I was scared, I didn't, be like any other kid. I was like, oh, I want food and this and this and this. I told her that I don't know what's happening. It's just water falling off my face.
Yeah, that's how you express your fear. You already felt it, but that's the only way, as a kid, to express what you were feeling. And it reminded me also of hiding in the house one time because my dad already was murdered. My dad was murdered in the second week of the genocide. So, and then another, the rest we were hiding with my mom and my other, of course, my other siblings. I remember one time in the house when we were hiding, so there's a man who came running because they were following him, the killers of, he was coming from the stadium, and he was holding his hand because his hand was chopped off, was bleeding, almost falling off. So, and then he came running in the house, and he found us while we're sitting on the ground. So, and my younger brother looked at all of us and told my mom, move, let, our dad sit, let him sit, just move, let him sit. He didn't necessarily, he was calling of course, he couldn't see his face. He thought it was our dad. So he said, let him sit. So, for him, he knew somehow what was happening. So he felt like all of us needed to be, in hiding. It was a very dark room. So, and unfortunately, that man was murdered when he left because the man who was hiding us, told him to leave. So we found out he was murdered. But it was one of, but one thing I'm grateful during the genocide, I didn't see many bodies. So I didn't see bodies, like how so many people saw bodies. So I saw, of course, like someone like him and many other horrible things I saw, especially as a teen, to see what you saw. It wasn't really good. So, especially to see my mother, begging people to hide us, and sometimes they refused. And it got to a point where my brothers were murdered. So, and which was one of the hardest things for my mother, because she carried all of us throughout, the time we were hungry and feet swollen, all the time soak wet because of the rain and going through the bushes. And it was not very easy. And then now the kids were, taken away from her. So it was one of the hardest things for all of us to, to deal with. We didn't know we were going to survive. And we kept hiding. And of course, so many horrible things happened, during the genocide, especially many wars, where there's a war, where there's a conflict. So And a lot of times, women and girls are the most targeted during those times. So, and for me, my mom and my sister, we didn't know what was going to happen to us. So, yeah, unfortunately, I try to describe some of the painful, things happened to me. So, at that time, so unfortunately, I had to go through rape, and I don't want to just be too emotional here. So
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. We can handle anything. Don't worry.
Yeah, so I had to go through rape like many other young girls and women. So, and who are now living with the consequences, of that. And some live with HIV. Others have now kids who are maybe like 26 and now to, being 26 now. So, and other consequences, Dydine knows, like we have seen many of them who are still struggling with the trauma. So, and for me, going through that and then finding out I was HIV positive, it was one of the most, painful things to go through. I didn't know how life was going to be like. So, and, it's, now I'm here, I talk, and thankfully I can speak. So I didn't know I was going to be really, a normal, happy person because I was a happy teen before. So, but then when after the genocide, realizing that, everything is different. So of course I had to find a way to be happy. And of course it was painful. It took me a long time really to get where I am now. So
Oh, thank you.
and I survived with my mom and my sister. So yeah, we are three girls only who survived.
You survived with Cherie, Mama.
I love her. Yeah. I hope all of you can meet her. She's one of the,
I know.
I don't know, every time I think of her, how she struggled, really, all those 3 months and carrying all of us everywhere. And then we survived the few of us. And it's, I don't know, even though I have my own pain, but sometimes when I think of her, I don't know how she really managed emotionally to really be strong and be able to even, after the genocide, be able to want to leave again and want to, to help all of us. And she managed to do that. And even though she was raising these traumatized girls who really, I mean, I don't know how really, and she's incredible, and many other women like your mom, Dydine. And
those women were special.
These women are special. They need special. Really, I don't know, there's nothing, I don't know what to give them. They are really special. They need, I don't know what to do for them, but they are really incredible how I feel like they sacrificed a lot to really make sure we have the life we have now. So
I always even feel like they never really had time to grieve and look back and feel what they went through because they had to immediately be there for these younglings, and take care of us and give us their strength. Like Consolee, like when I see you, when you meet Consolee, there it's just light coming from her.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
what I've got.
Thank you.
And every time we've spoken or I've heard you speaking on the phone, it's nothing but like positivity and laughing.
No, meet her in person. Like you'll be like, oh my God, I wish every person on earth would have this heart, like a positive heart, so much strength.
Thank you.
I know, and you just live every day with joy. Like every time I talked, like you helped me so much since I've been here in America. I remember you were the first Rwandan that I met here in America.
Yeah.
And then I remember sitting with you at the Hilton Hotel in Manhattan all night.
It was so beautiful to meet you. As soon as I met you, there are people you meet right away, you connect. So I immediately connected with her. I could see her like my little sister,
I know. I was like, oh my God, I finally have a big sister. I'm the oldest in my family.
Right.
And then we sat in that hotel's lobby. in the lobby.
More than 2 hours.
No.
Three,
It was
4 hours.
until I didn't remember. It was until
Yeah.
5:30 in the morning, and we had a train to DC at 7. So
You didn't sleep.
no,
Yeah,
I didn't sleep.
remember
We
that.
didn't sleep at all. So
Yeah.
we were talking all night, sharing our stories. And it was the first
Yeah.
time that we're sharing our stories as stories, because in Rwanda, it's not
Yeah.
really a thing. Everyone has been through something. So you're surviving every day.
Yeah.
You don't look back. So I
Yeah,
remember.
especially, it was really great. Yeah. Go ahead,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. It's okay. I remember sitting with you,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're sharing with me your story. You tell me your brother, and I'm sharing with you everything I've been through, and you encouraging me to share my story. I was like, no, I don't even have a story. And I was like, no. Do you know how many kids you can inspire? My brother was supposed to be your age right now. Like, you gave me that, that, I don't know how I can express it. But there was something that you just encouraged me to be, to become more than I thought I can become. And we just, we probably are on a phone call every day, or every other day, if it's not every day. But I'm very, very, very grateful for you.
I'm so grateful to have you. Like, like I saw you immediately. I felt like I found a sibling who, you're like my brother. So I really saw that in you. My brother, was a light. So you were light. So immediately I could see you through him. So I could see him through you.
Don't make me cry.
So, yeah. So that's why I immediately connected. I didn't have to really, and then we talked many hours. I'm grateful that really I met you. You were a blessing to me, and I'm so proud of you. And I'm so happy you really shared your story. It's important, and people need to know, we are different generations. So they're all the older generation, like my mom, and we are different generation. Like they're those who are in the 20s, those who are teenagers like me, and those who are younger, really younger, who don't remember anything like you are. So, and the genocide didn't only, it left a lot. It really affected us in so many ways. There's aftermath. So, and the aftermath is really big, and I think it's important to talk about that, really. Because,
about the aftermath. You just took me somewhere. About the aftermath. So now, genocide, 3 months of hell has just happened. You've lost almost everything, and you have to leave again. You have to go back to school. You have to have a life. How was that? In a briefly. I know our stories are really, really, it's a life, like you can't say it in 10 minutes, 2 hours, few days.
I know.
But just to give people an understanding of how human spirit is so strong that it can never be squashed. Just try a little bit to tell us something that people can understand that,
Yeah, that's true. Let me try. Sometimes it's hard.
How you ended up with that smile.
But sometimes it's hard to explain, especially coming in a culture where sometimes you know how we are. We don't necessarily, know how to explain sometimes, things, happened in our lives. So, yeah. And, as a teenager, imagine you are forced to go back to normal life like anyone else. You lost people. You don't have, you're living with the pain. So I remember when I went to school, so of course I had to, to find the kids, some of them who were like coming from families who committed the genocide. These are the kids who are going to go in the same school with me. And then I also had to, find the kids who were like living abroad, those who grew up abroad, and came back in the country. And then I'm someone who lost the people and don't know like what to do. Some of them were happy, really, like I have a joyful life. So, and then I will have to find a way to be happy with them. So, but it wasn't easy. So I didn't know what to do. But then I remember the first year in high school when I went back to school, that first year, it was really tough for me. So everything was like images. Every time I'll sit down in the classroom, I become almost like, like it's almost like watching a horror movie. So I will have all these nightmares. Everything would just come in my mind. So I wouldn't even follow anything the teacher was saying. So, but the teacher was expecting me to performing well the same way as those kids. So because there was nothing like, there's a counseling, or this kid is not, because of what happened, she's not feeling well because of, what she came, but they had to force us to really be like normal, like any other kid. So because the country had to go back to normal. And it was really tough the first year, but not everybody really managed. We always had these kids who were traumatized all the time in the classroom, and because of, all these, images were coming through their minds. And there were triggers. If you hear like a noise, people running, the first thing you think is running too. You're going to hide it because you still have those, those things in your mind. There are so many triggers that were happening to us. So, and then at the same time, one thing really that helped us is to find each other as survivors. So if you're a survivor, at least, you found each other, you stayed together. I remember like in my area, every time when, especially holidays, we used to find each other survivors, even though we were not many, but at least we talk to each other, we visit each other, we just talk about anything, just to feel like at least we are together. It really helped us. And one thing that helped us the most is because that's, we had to create some of the, things that were not natural, especially many people didn't have families. They have uncles to go to, or cousins to go to, or even parents. And I remember my family, my mom, I always had friends who used to come to my home. They would stay in my home, would sleep on the same bed, and they could share whatever we had. So I remember we used to have these homes of survivors who are older, like my mom's ages, or even a little bit younger than my mom. So we used to go to those homes because we felt comfortable, like going to those homes, so that they can really give us like a really comfort. And, even though these were older people, but who were really, who felt bad for these kids, but the only thing they can do is just give us a place to sit and sit down and talk many hours. And that's what we used to do. So, and I think for me, we found a way to comfort each other in the midst of pain. So, and instead of like maybe trying to do anything bad, but we managed to really, support each other. And there were also organization for survivors in high school, and they didn't know those. So, and somehow also it was a part of the way of survivors to be together. So, but at the same time, we were going through a lot of trauma. So every day. So all of us really were struggling within ourselves, but we had to force ourselves to live normal.
It takes time to work through that.
Yes, it takes a long time, and not everybody really copes better. Like some of us really managed to really be stronger than others. So some of them were not able to cope well. So, and I mean, the trauma was too great to bear. So, and my generation actually really, we went through a lot. So, and I always talk to my friends who are same age as me, like how, like our generation carries a lot of trauma, and even the kids who are born from this generation, they're really also going through, the trauma inherited from our generation. So it was too much. We had to really force ourselves to live a normal life without even dealing with the trauma well. So, and it's really, and it can follow your kids and your, everybody who comes from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But eventually you did work through it though.
I did. I mean, I'm so grateful because I'm one of the people who are fortunate to have a parent. So, and for me, I think one thing that has helped me the most is to come here. When I came here, that's when I realized, I found things that I didn't know about, like therapy. It's something that normally it's not, so many survivors didn't do therapy. So you'll find a handful of few of them really who did therapy. So, and when I went to therapy, it was one of the things that really allowed me to open up a little bit. And then I realized that opening up about my pain, my suffering really was one of the way of helping me to start a journey of healing. So,
Yeah.
and that's why I was able to even to meet Dydine. So Dydine, we would not have met if I didn't allow myself to go through that journey. So, and being vulnerable really has helped me a lot to realize that vulnerability is not a weakness. So, and
Right.
seeing myself, talking about some of the painful things I've been through, and I realized was opening the door to seeing a light despite the darkness. So, and I felt really like I was becoming light, and I was seeing life, worth living. And then I can see myself, despite living with HIV, I could see myself that I'm not what I live with. This girl, and who deserves to be happy and deserves everything like good like anyone else. So
Yeah.
I had to change my thoughts on how I see life. And I remember one guy who said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So I had to change the way I look at life, so that I can feel good within myself. So yeah.
So yeah, having gone through what you have and now living in New York and with your book and with the talks that you give, there's just strength and positivity in sharing your experiences and your message. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what compels you to do that at this point now?
Yeah. Thank you for asking me that. As I mentioned earlier, so it wasn't really an easy journey for me, but I was really, I'm very fortunate that I was able to find the courage. I had good friends and people who really encouraged me, my doctor and everyone else who was kind enough to listen to me, to my pain, and really listening to the way I was expressing my pain, because sometimes when you start talking about what you've been through, you don't have the words. I didn't have the words to explain what, like sometimes to, say what your pain, what you're feeling. So, but I've had those people who really, gave me the gift of listening.
Yeah.
Of
Right.
listening to me and being kind to me and listening to me. And then I started that journey of really going deep within, the places, these, painful memories I've kept within myself for so long. And they were really harming me. They were not really helping me. They were affecting my daily life. So, and when I allowed myself to really go deep within and really write down everything that has happened to me, I didn't know how it was going to help me, but then I realized how it was helping me when I was doing that. So, and also allowing myself to, surround myself with, people with positive things, like I consciously, decided not to, be around much. Of course, you'll find those people, but, I really searched the good things, like the things that will help me. So, and that's when I started also, reading some of the good books that helps you to, to feel good within yourself. And
Yeah.
of course, being a Christian and praying, but at the same time, I was searching something good, something good. I was yearning to find something that really helps me to feel good within myself. When I realized that the life begins within. So, and for me, I realized that in order for me to, to have a healthy and fulfilling life, I should really try to, to search, something that really helps me to heal from within so that I can, feel better on the outside. So, and also to my mother, who is really a positive person. And I'm glad she never stopped me really sharing my story. I used to worry that she might tell me not to share certain things about, what happened during the genocide. But I realized that when I did it, I realized I was helping her indirectly without knowing. So, and she shared with me that she used to have a migraine, and then suddenly it really disappeared because I really decided to speak to her everything that was happening within me, like how my journey of healing was happening, what I was feeling, the things I was doing to to change the way I look at myself. So, and then I realized that even those around me, like my mother and my, like it was changing her. You realize you're changing someone without necessarily knowing you're doing that. So, and at the same time helping yourself. So, and I really felt, like I needed to keep doing that for me. So, and also changing the way I look at myself, like trying to look at life in a positive way. And then I started feeling the joy within. And gradually, and this, enjoying life, gradually feeling like, that teenage life I've lost, and that life, between also, after the teenage life, and some of my adult life. So, and there were so many painful, I didn't live through it in a happy way. So, but then I realized, my goodness, now I'm starting to feel like, to love, life, the things I've never loved before, like to dress myself, or even to be like silly. I never talk too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think over the years, I realized I was comforting that preteen, that 14-year-old girl that was that lost the joy, the innocence,
Yeah.
and so I started living a life of comforting her, telling her, you're okay, you're, like, so I feel like I'm comforting her, I'm showing her, life goes on, and like, giving her something, telling her some kind words. So yeah, whenever any painful memory comes through, I would tell her something, nice to her. So, and that's how I live with her. Now I feel, now we can all enjoy life together. So I just, feel like I'm happy. I'm happy to be happy. So
I know.
yeah.
And you live it every single day. Like
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
witness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can feel sad, but I try not to dwell on the sadness. So it depends, like any other, human being, but I try not to dwell on the pain. So yeah.
Um wow. So now you have been in America almost
I
over 17
forgot it.
years now.
Almost 17, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how is life here? How is your life been? I wanna know the Consolee New. How do you
Oh
became a
Lord.
New Yorker? Okay,
Are
you
you sure
are.
you want to know? Yeah.
Briefly, something, like how, because I think your accent, the way you walk in those New York
Really?
streets, in the
Wow.
subway, everything, you are a New Yorker, and I'm just like,
I mean,
huh.
I think everybody confuses me being born here. No, I'm joking, but they are confused. But I really, one thing I'm happy about is that I ended up in your city, and not in the, in the countryside of America. So I don't think it would have been good for me to end up in a place like where.
She's a
No, I
city
think I'm
woman.
happy I'm really happy I ended up in your city. And maybe if I ended up maybe LA, probably it would have been also good. But I'm happy that I ended up in Europe because it's one of the place that if you're not depressed, you can be happy. So you choose.
You choose.
Yeah, you choose.
Yeah.
You choose. Yeah, some of the people really don't know how to deal with the way the city is. So others really, if for me, actually, it helped me a lot in discovering, like who, what I like. So, like for instance, I like to walk around. I'm a very curious person to see, what's going on around. So, and no one really cares about how you look, and it really helped me so much, really, like having fun and living in New York. So and it happened gradually when I realized that when I was starting to to discover that life is worth living. That's when I really, really, my eyes opened, to enjoying life in New York City.
Yeah.
So, and then I started really going with the flow and, like appreciating small things around the city, even things that probably those who are born here don't necessarily care very much. For me, I care. I see them. I really observe. Nothing really passed me around. I really observe things. I'm really appreciating what I see. And, it's a diverse city. So what I love the most that I can see people from all walks of life. So, and then you learn so many things. And then I like to have fun. Music. I see people dancing all over the place. People who are being silly. I want to see that. I'm a silly person. Just want to see people really dancing, having fun, and, the music and art. So I like art, to see art. So and just like just to be able to be anywhere without me driving. I don't like driving. I will never drive. So, and I love just going anywhere without driving. So I like that idea. I really love that about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm very simple. I just don't like really flashy. So I'm just, the person who appreciates what I see, doesn't matter how small it is. So I just really love that I can get that in New York City. So it's one of the best ways that has helped me to heal, actually, to really heal. Yeah, instead of depressing me, it helped me in my healing. So I really enjoy being here. And I really started now, feeling like it's one of the place that I needed to add on my, that has helped me in this journey of healing. So, and I'm really appreciative of everything I see here, whether it's, of course, and there are some things you don't like, but I don't necessarily watch that much, so I don't pay so much attention to that. So I try to look something nice. So, and there are so many great things here. So the city is really one of the, my favorite
Yeah.
city in the world.
Even
So,
the rats.
Oh yeah, those.
even the rats have been so kind to me. Just like
No, they're not. They have no, no, no. They're all grown. They're huge.
Dog-sized
so
cats.
we
They're
try,
Or
dogs.
we
rats.
try.
Dog-sized rats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we try to wave each other and be like, hey girl, say hey, what's up?
So now, as we're speaking now, as we're
Yeah.
talking, there is a
Mm-hmm.
crisis all over the
Mm-hmm.
world. This is a
Yeah.
crisis that is not just choosing colors, choosing religions or
Yeah.
gender or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's I would say it's an attack on humans. That's that
Yeah.
personally. That's what I would
Mm-hmm.
say. We're all stuck in
Yeah.
our homes. Right now, we're on the
Yeah.
phone in New York City. We are in LA, Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
and we're trying to inspire as many people as we can and give them some hope and give them, strength. And
Mm-hmm.
what else can we say?
Mm-hmm.
Like for people to not lose their
Yeah.
marbles,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what can you say? Like, how are you dealing with this? I saw you the other day running around in Manhattan on your
I know, right?
Instagram story, which
The
is
silly
not
me.
safe.
Mm-hmm.
But how are you dealing
Yeah.
with this?
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, it's one of the, the crisis that is not looking for, anyone. It's just like really affecting everybody, wherever you are, anywhere in the world. So everybody's affected. And especially that, like, also here in New York City, we are hearing so much about, people are already sick. So, and we are, obliged to stay at home. So that's what they're asking us to do, so that we can, minimize the people who are, becoming affected from this virus. So it's really a scary time for so many people, all of us. And I'm sure like there are people who, all of us really don't cope the same way. There are people who are really, when they see something like this, they become so fearful. I really try to, to encourage people to not really be afraid. Just be hopeful and really try to think something really positive. Every day try to, to see something that really not make you be afraid that life is over. It's not over. This shall pass. So it's something that like people who are sick to get better, and even those who have lost the people, the families, really, to pray for them, and also to remain hopeful and positive, and whatever you are in your, try to be positive, try to find something really better, to to feed your mind, because sometimes when you allowing your mind to dwell much on the fear, you may suffer a lot within yourself. So, and it's better to find whatever anything you like to do. We're seeing people who are like performing for people in their balconies. So, or it could be anything. Yeah, like we're seeing a lot of on social media people are doing for other people, their neighbors. So, try to reach out to people, anybody. You can write to someone, you can call someone. If you feel like you can't really hold, like you are fearful, you don't know what to do. So there are so many people who can talk to you. At least don't try not to be alone. There's now we have ways to reach out to each other. So it's not like back in the days where you had to write to somebody and then wait for years to get letters. So, but now you can call each other. There are cell phones. You can really reach out to your neighbor. You find someone, and then remain positive and pray. If you pray, if you read a really good book, if you exercise, try to to send a good vibes towards one another. So whatever you are, just try to send some good vibes and try to do something positive, and to support each other. Maybe this is a way maybe to connect in a way that probably we never connected it before. So maybe virtually people can connect and see that we are all the same. We are all, anything can happen to all of us. We are all we are all humans who deserve to, to love one another. So
Yeah. You are a published author of what's the title of your book? You want me to say it? Test it to the limit?
I'm Secretary General of the United Nations. No, just kidding.
That would be great. Yeah. Consolee, you speak all over the world. You inspire people. That's your calling. And what have you, about, on the podcast, we always like to share something great, something beautiful that we've learned from other cultures that we adapted, and something that, you learn, and something new, but also it makes you aware that at the end of the day, we are all humans, So you can just tell us one little thing that, you've experienced that is a culture other than your own, that it made you realize how much alike we are and how we should just love each other.
Yeah, no, even though, all of us come from different cultures and maybe speak different languages, one thing I realize is that there's one thing, like when you see people, like one of the universal thing is that everybody, um, loves music. Like that's an example, right? Music is universal. and when it's that when it's a music that really, music can bring people together, and all of us really love to love to so we all of us really love to love, right?
Yeah, right.
Anywhere in the world, we all love to love. So that's one thing I realized. And also, it feels the same way, right? It feels the same way. It doesn't, we are all like the same, like love is love. It doesn't matter who you are, all of us love to love. So it feels good.
What is one universal message that you would send to the world, that you would say to our listeners, one thing that you truly believe in that would leave a positive mark on the world?
Yeah. One message I always love to, to tell people, it's like my mantra. So it's like my mantra is like, no matter what horrible circumstances you may face in your life, never lose hope. For losing hope is the beginning of your own self-defeat. So I just want to leave this with everyone. So it helps me. Hopefully it can help you too.
That's it.
Got shivers from that one. That was good.
Did you say shit?
No, I said shivers.
Yeah.
Shivers.
I'm sorry, I don't do that. I don't do that. I just misunderstood. Shivers.
It sounds the same. Yeah.
Right, close enough.
Oh man. Oh, what a pleasure. What a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to that discussion with Consolee. This one meant a lot. Just hearing her talk about her firsthand experiences in Rwanda and kind of the positivity that we were able to kind of conjure up. That was special for sure.
It was really special. Consolee is just a special human being, and I'm so happy we were able to bring her on our podcast. For more about Consolee, she is amazing. She does a lot of public speaking around the country, and you can find her on our website, consolee.org, where you'll find her book, Tested to the Limit, all her videos, some of the talks that she's done. Or you can just go on our website and we will put more information about Consolee and our social media. It has social media as well. It's Consolee Nishimwe. This was really a fun interview, and I can't wait for you guys to listen to our next interview.
Stay tuned to next week's episode, everybody.
Stay tuned.